Good morning, everyone. How are we all today? I didn't make it for drinks last night, but it looks as if everyone's a little bit sluggish this morning, so hopefully you've had some coffee. My name's Caris Jamieson, and I am part of the go-to-market team within AI Business Solutions here at Microsoft. It was formerly called Modern Workplace, for those of you that are familiar with Microsoft. We do like to change names every now and then. I am joined today by my colleague Damien Bird. He's one of the cloud solution architects, and he's going to go a little bit deeper into some of the case studies that we're seeing here with customers using chatbots and agentic transformation. And I'm sure some of you have already had conversations with Damien at dinner, if you're at dinner, at drinks last night as well. So firstly, before I start, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone here who has came to take part in the roundtable yesterday, and also who's came to visit us in the booth. It's been really inspiring to see all the work that you guys are doing in what is really a fast-paced and fast-moving industry, and really keen for us at Microsoft here to understand where you guys are at and how we can help. When I was listening and reflecting back on some of the things that I heard yesterday, I always like to try and cluster the key themes that are here to develop some sort of word cloud, no pun intended, as Microsoft. But some of the biggest sort of takeaways that I took from the conversation that were perhaps inhibiting or top of mind for everyone were tools. Maybe the tools that you have access to, you can use. Some of them are limited depending on your organisations, or some of the tools were tools that people were using in personal use versus corporate use, and then governance. And I think in the keynote yesterday that came across quite clearly. So I know this is a chatbot conference, but we're going to talk about this concept that we have at Microsoft of a frontier firm. Has anyone heard this from Microsoft yet? Just a quick show of hands. No. A couple of you, right, great. So if you just kind of think about where you guys are at in your own organisations with your journey and where you aspire to be. We see a frontier firm as an organisation that is looking to reinvent how work is done around AI. And again, all the conversations I've had yesterday showcase that that's what you guys are all doing. So it's not waiting for perfect answers, it's learning by doing, and it's building that internal intuition. So if you like frontier firms, this concept is reinventing the organisation with AI from the inside out. All structured around on-demand intelligence, powered by human AI teams, right? There's a lot of conversations yesterday about sort of concerns, especially in the employee layer, about when we do these things, does it remove jobs? And we'll sort of talk a little bit about that. But I can see the will and the want for everyone to use this technology to scale rapidly, operate with agility, and generate value faster. And this is the sort of concept of frontier firms and what we are trying to help customers do on that journey. So what does that look like in practice? Experiment, right? So we're going to talk a bit about what Microsoft here have with Copilot and agents. Redesigning workflows, right? I think a lot of you were talking about the sort of messy things that happen and how you can redesign some of those. Accepting the fact there is some uncertainty, but fundamentally not compromising on the security around that. So really fundamentally it boils down to changing that operating model that you're working on. So what does this success framework look like in our minds for a frontier firm? So it's that holistic view. So it's not disconnected parts. It's sort of a 4-step approach that everyone in all parts of your organisation are looking at. Employee experience, customer engagement, business processes, and innovation velocity. And everything starts with AI in that flow of human ambition, democratised innovation, and observability every layer. We're going to get into a little more about that. So this, if you like, is like a blueprint that aligns people, data, and workflows with intelligent agents. This is the sort of design concept to keep in mind. So frontier firms, we see sort of 2 paths emerging. So frontier firms, as I mentioned, reinvent how they operate with AI from inside out. They're building fluency early, they experiment, and they develop intuition before everything else. And then you get fast followers. That's ones that are looking for clearer patterns and scale out proven ones with discipline. And both of these are valid, so you don't have to be one or the other. We're concentrating more on that frontier firm piece in order to help with scale, with security in mind, using all the tools that we have. So both are valid, but I think the real risk here that we see is moving without learning. So without the mechanisms to experiment, measure and adapt. So how do you give that flexibility within your organisations, but make sure there is security within that as well? So we think this is what makes Microsoft a little bit unique. So from our perspective, and I know this is a chatbot, but let's think Agentic for a minute. We're offering a complete Agentic system of work, and that's across 3 layers. Copilot to transform the knowledge work. Most people are more familiar with Copilot or the variations of those tools. Agents to then help run your business. And then Agent 365, so some of you might not have heard about this, but Agent 365 is that the observability layer for that visibility and control. And it's all underpinned by Work IQ. This is our intelligence layer, and that's the piece that understands the people, the organisations, and the workflow. So it's one integrated system that we're looking at rather than a collection of disconnected parts. So when you're thinking about what you're doing in your Agentic system of work, what does that look like in your organisation? So we're moving essentially from app-centric workflows to Agentic-centric systems of work. So when I think about that, I think about app-centric being, you know, I've got a hammer, I need to pick up the hammer and swing. Whereas agent-centric's more, it's going to do the work for me. So that's something to keep in mind when you're thinking about some of these transitions as well. And all good systems start with a core. So what's the core like in your organisation? Obviously, from a Microsoft perspective, that core starts with Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and Windows as the OS. And that gives everyone a sort of enterprise-grade identity data workflows and endpoints. All of these are really important in terms of providing that scaffolding for safe, scalable agentic work that this sort of transformation depends on. So when you think about what is the scaffolding that you guys have just now, is it disconnected, is it safe, has it got a good foundation? What does that look like for you in terms of that core? So that's really important. Now we then break it down into a couple of key parts. We call these acts, right? So Act 1 is the act around Copilot, the knowledge work piece. So from a knowledge work perspective, Microsoft 365 Copilot is the AI platform built for work. I know there's other tools available, but obviously I work for Microsoft. It brings that organisational context, people and workflows together across every app and task, which is super important. So there's 4 things here that you need to kind of consider. Who does it start with? Well, it starts with you in terms of that knowledge work. Your ambition, so you tell Copilot the task you want to achieve. Then you want that to understand your work. Copilot does that, understand your work, your organisation. It's context aware. It's grounded in your work, your data across everything that's within your data set, your chats, your emails, your meetings and your workflows. It gets work done across apps and tools that you rely on with the agent streamlining workflows and tasks. And most importantly, it's safe and secure. So when you're thinking about all the things that you're using, where is your safety and security net within that? With Microsoft Copilot, it's built in from a security perspective. So Work IQ, has anyone heard of Work IQ? No, okay. So this is what makes Copilot unique. It's the intelligence layer. So what you're working on, how you work, and how work flows across your organisation. It brings together the data, the memory, and the inference that delivers deep contextual personalised assistance. So when you think about data, that's the piece that knows how you work. So the meetings, the documents, all the things that reside for you. When you think about the memory, that is the way you work. What are your styles and habits? What are your preferences? How do you respond to things like tenders, business meetings, things that you need to do in reviews? And then finally, there's the inference. This is the part that brings it all together. So this is what makes the Copilot connections, unlocks insights, and it even predicts what you might need next. And that's pretty valuable, right? And fundamentally, I've said this in every slide, but I can't stress enough the part about security here as well. So, Act 2, we've talked about the knowledge work, now the agents part of the business. So agents, what we all want out of this, and we realise that the technology is running faster than we can. So sometimes it takes a minute to just pause and think, what problem am I trying to solve for here? Am I just running this race because there's companies like Microsoft and others that are out there driving AI? Or are we really trying to transform for good, both in terms of our employee experiences, but also the experiences of your customers? If you were to stack rank all those problems, what are the ones that you're really trying to solve for? And this is a particular key point. How are agents going to help you run that? So I think a lot of the things we've heard so far is that, agents might take away people's jobs. I think we've been hearing this for decades now. I've been in this industry for a long time, and every time, the internet burst on or some new technology burst on, we always think that's going to take somebody's jobs. But I always like to try and think about technology as how can we use that to solve problems that we're not solving for today? Where does the rubber hit the road, and how is technology aiding towards this? So from a Microsoft perspective, when we think about agents, we think about Copilot, bringing a spectrum of agents, and these frontier firms are using these agents really to transform. So those are both agents that come from the ones that you can use at Microsoft, the ones you're building internally, the ones that you're building with third-party tools, right? The options are endless here. It's bringing these all together. So connecting people and agents through apps is what's really important here, but solving the problems is absolutely key. From a Microsoft perspective, these IQs are really important for us. We've talked to a lot of people about this yesterday. Getting the agents deeply rooted in your business context, right? It's a bit like bringing a new employee on board, right? What do you want that new employee to know? How can you help them get really rooted in the business so that they add value? And that's what makes frontier firms build this competitive advantage. And like everything, there's like a menu option to do this. There's options where you can just use pre-built apps, agents that are there. There's ones where you can use wizards, where you can connect things together. Or you can develop your own using Foundry, that sort of pro code piece of things as well, where you have something a bit more specialised. So lots of options there as well. Again, put a plug for Microsoft, but we do have lots of customer stories. Damien's going to come up in a minute and talk about a couple of stories in particular. One with Holland America, who have a chatbot, and how they went about that, particularly challenging, right, when you're roaming about in any given venue at sea. And then another one, Pets at Home, who we really see as pushing that sort of agentic frontier firm vision, and how those two can both work and make you think about what options are available. So we're talking about all these things, and this is great. Microsoft have all these tools to help you with information work through Copilot, with agents, through building in Copilot Studio and other tools, but how can we actually help you realise that more effectively? And again, the conversations I've had with a lot of you yesterday are, how can you meet us, Microsoft, where we're at? What can you provide into our space? And one of the things that we have brought into this space is Microsoft Agent Factory. So of course, it's a prepaid plan, but what this will do is it will give organisations the ability to deploy agents anywhere. So that includes Microsoft Copilot, and it provides also, the important thing here, hands-on support with what we call FDEs, forward deployed engineers and partners. So that's looking more at tailored role-based training to boost AI fluency within teams. And again, I heard a lot about how do we do that? How do we get more fluency? How do we get more education? How do we get people on a better learning journey to make sure that as this technology continues to be fast-paced, what we do and how we learn aligns to that? So this Microsoft Agent Factory with the deployed engineers is one of our offerings to help organisations meet you where you're at and help you realise that value faster. So Act 3, I talked about Agent 365. So Agent 365 is our observability and visibility control on this. There's a lot of questions about how to manage and secure agents, and I would say most people, does anyone have fear about the sprawling network of agents that everyone's got in their organisation? Do you feel like, I don't know what I'm doing? Yeah. It's like everyone, you want people to be creative, right? You want to let them experiment, back to what we were talking about, but you want to do that in a secure way. So our perspective is that you already have infrastructures in place today. Right? You might think, no, we don't. Well, you do, because you all have employees in your organisations and you have ways to control what they access, right? So certain people, depending on what their job role is, you'll control their access to certain things. It's the same for this. So when you think about agents, think about it in the same way you would have any new human or new customer engaging with anything in your organisation. You'd have specific policies and limitations on who you give to what. But we believe that Agent 365, with these amounts of agents coming in, gives a little bit more observability at every layer. So think about identity, security, access control, compliance in the agent world. So with this sort of unified management, secure rollout, and human-agent workflow integration, organisations can now scale more confidently with safety that they have that observability at every level. There's a lot more to this in terms of agent ID, how that enables management of any agent regardless of the builder platform, unified management. It also includes any other agents that you've got that you're building with third-party tools. So there's a lot of richness in Agent 365 in terms of how it can help with that ability to make you feel confident that you've got that security as you're letting people in your organisation experiment with agent build. So that's the sort of 3 acts in terms of the information work, how you use Copilot to be more productive, how you make sure your employees can gain the benefits, how you bring agents into that to reshape processes, and then how you think about that observability every layer of those agents. So now you're probably thinking, right, so what is the path forward here? Well, there's lots of options, right? And as I said at the start, it depends sort of where you're at with this. So one of the things you'll probably ask yourself is, how will this value manifest? When I'm putting things in, I have, a CFO, I have a finance person who's asking me, well, what's the return on investment, right? The way to look at this is the way we look at any total cost of ownership. How are you increasing the efficiency? How are you getting your offerings to your customers faster? How are you lowering cost of growth? So while you're growing, how are you lowering that cost? And I would say on this piece, this is not about losing people. And I'm always quite strong on that. I don't see this about losing people. I see this, if you kind of use an analogy of what we do in our personal lives, we would love for someone to come and do some of the tasks that we have to do that sometimes limit us from doing more productive work. That's the way as organisations, if we want to scale to become these frontier firms, we have to do it. So really think about that in terms of what are the things you're not getting to do today in terms of those projects. And then cost optimisation, AI risk and cost optimisation, that Agent 365 is really important. So I want to give 2 minutes to Damien now. I'm not going to go into this AI factory, but someone mentioned to me yesterday about reusing things. And this is like, for those of you who've been around the business for a long time, you'll think of Lean Six Sigma, Kanbans. I see agents being this now, right? In your organisations, if you're not already setting up some sort of AI factory, you should. Because you want to know, you want to encourage your employees to feel empowered to do things, but you want to know that that is in a way that you can reuse, test, launch, and reuse that IP, right? Reuse what you've got. So with that, I'm going to hand over, because I want Damien to talk about these case studies for 2 minutes, just to bring that to life. So as I mentioned, Holland America and Pets at Home. And I think these are really good ones, right? Put back to you.
So some food for thought in 90 seconds. So the first example of Holland America, just redesigning that customer experience, where traditionally you go and book a cruise via a website, you choose the dates, and you go through a search and you get those results back. They've implemented a chatbot on their website, traditional one that you type to, you discuss your type of cruise you're looking to go on, and obviously using the APIs and such like, you create that conversational experience. and enable the customer to find the perfect cruise. So that's Holland America. Moving on to pets at home, it's not a chatbot. They're using, and they've been doing this for a lot longer than some of us, thinking about workflows and automations using AI, building agentic capabilities, where they've looked at trying to identify fraud. So products that have been sent back to them or being raised as faulty or delivered damage. They've used the technologies within the Power Platform, used language models, multimodal language models to analyze images of products that have been sent back to identify trends, look for the type of product that's coming back. Does this picture already exist on their system? And really reduce the fraud levels within the organization. So going from thinking about a chatbot to now using language models and multimodal capabilities within your day-to-day back end. And then really just to throw some ideas out there for you, if you haven't heard the buzzwords, thinking about frontier, because ultimately that's what we're talking about, things like MCP, Model Context Protocol, which is the toolbox for bringing those APIs into your agents. CUA is Computer Use Agents, which is now a competitor to RPA, which again, because of multimodal capabilities, is allowing you to build out agents that can see a screen and operate a mouse and interact with legacy systems. And then just one more, A2A, multi-agent orchestration. Think about breaking down those agent capabilities into subject matter experts and the protocol A2A that can potentially let cross-platform agents talk together. And I just want to say thanks very much for having myself and Caris. It's been a great opportunity.
We could talk about this all day. Next steps we have to help. Come and see us at the booth. Also, Laura from Virgin Money is going to talk a lot about what she's doing shortly as well. And Laura's got a phenomenal story, so if you've not got that booked into your agenda, come and see Laura. But come and see us in the booth. Have more conversations about where you're at, which one of these we can help you with. And just just curious to learn what it is you're trying to solve for as well. So thanks for your time today and enjoy the rest of the day too.